What if I told you that a simple carburetor modification, literally just flipping one part backward, could make a mid-sized Ford outrun big block V8s with twice the displacement? Not by adding horsepower, not by cutting weight, but through a fuel delivery trick so subtle and brilliant that once racing officials understood it, it was immediately banned. Picture this. It's a Saturday night at the drag strip, 1968. The air is heavy with the smell of race fuel and burning rubber. Under the dim track lights, a modest Ford Fairlane sits quietly between two monsters of the muscle car era, a 454 Chevrolet Chevelle and a 440 Mopar Roadrunner. Nobody is betting on the Ford. Not tonight. Not with that small block engine. The Fairlane's owner himself wasn't confident 3 weeks ago. But tonight is different. Tonight, there is a secret hidden under the hood. A modification so simple that it looks almost ridiculous. Yet sometimes, the most powerful engineering ideas are the ones that hide in plain sight. The Ford launches like it was fired from a cannon. Off the line, the Fairlane pulls a full car length ahead before the big block machines even react. By the time the cars reach the finish line, the small Cleveland V8 has stretched its advantage into something the crowd can barely believe. The other racers are confused. The tech inspectors are suspicious. And somewhere in the pit area, a mechanic is quietly realizing that he may have just rewritten the physics of drag racing fuel delivery. The story behind this innovation begins in the golden age of carburetor performance. Back then, racing was part science and part mechanical art. The late 1960s represented the peak of naturally aspirated engine tuning. There were no computer-controlled fuel systems, no electronic mapping, just metal, air, gasoline, and physics fighting against each other inside a mechanical carburetor. The king of that era was the Holley 4-barrel carburetor. Simple in concept, but incredibly sensitive in practice. Inside the carburetor were fuel bowls, mechanical floats, and tiny jets that controlled how gasoline mixed with incoming air. Every adjustment mattered. A difference of a few thousandths of an inch in jet size or float height could decide a race. But carburetors had one critical weakness. They hated acceleration forces. When a drag car launches hard, the rapid acceleration creates G-force pressure that pushes fuel backward inside the carburetor bowls. It's the same feeling that pins your body to the seat when you accelerate. Except inside the carburetor, this movement can starve the engine of fuel. Racers called it stumbling, bogging, off-the-line hesitation. The problem was especially severe in high-performance drag setups, where engines demanded fuel instantly during launch. Many racers tried different solutions. Some raised float levels to compensate for fuel movement. Others installed anti-slosh baffles or foam inserts inside the bowls. Advanced racers experimented with extended jet tubes that reached deeper into the fuel reservoir. But these were temporary fixes. They treated the symptom, not the physics behind it. Then came a mechanic from Michigan, a quiet engineer who spent his daytime hours rebuilding carburetors and his nights studying fluid dynamics. He started thinking differently. Instead of fighting fuel movement, what if the movement itself could help feed the engine? The idea came from a simple observation. Under acceleration, fuel naturally moves backward inside the bowl. In a standard carburetor layout, that movement can pull fuel away from the jet pickup area. So one night in his garage, he tried something radical. He removed the front fuel bowl from a Holley 750 double-pumper carburetor and rotated it 180 degrees. Nothing else. 4 bolts, a slightly longer fuel hose, and a modification that left the carburetor looking almost stock unless someone studied it closely. Now, when acceleration forces pushed fuel backward, the fuel would accumulate exactly where the jet pickup needed it most. The result was immediate. The engine stopped stumbling off the line. Throttle response became sharper and more linear. More importantly, the mechanic could now run aggressive tuning setups, larger jets, advanced timing, and higher shift points, without sacrificing launch stability. In drag racing, the first 60 feet of the track are everything. That section is often called the money zone because races are usually decided there. A car that gains even a tenth of a second advantage at launch can translate into several tenths by the finish line. Most racers had to compromise engine tuning to avoid bogging. The Michigan mechanic didn't. He optimized the fuel system instead of detuning the engine. The modification was also clever from a rulebook perspective. At the time, the NHRA regulations prohibited carburetor body modifications and fuel injection systems in certain racing classes. But the rules did not explicitly forbid changing the orientation of a carburetor component. The controversy escalated into one of the most heated rule committee debates in racing history. Racers argued that innovation should be allowed as long as rules were not explicitly broken. Officials argued that such modifications undermined fair competition and could escalate costs if everyone started chasing similar loopholes. The final ruling came 3 weeks later. All carburetor components had to be installed in factory-intended orientation. Fuel bowls specifically were required to maintain standard positioning. The era of the reversed fuel bowl was over. But innovation never truly stops in racing. After the ban, aftermarket companies began developing legal methods to replicate similar performance advantages. Anti-slosh baffles, redesigned float systems, and improved fuel atomization technology all emerged partly because of lessons learned from this modification. The reversed bowl trick worked because it turned physics into an ally. Testing showed that fuel delivery could improve dramatically during the first fraction of a second after throttle hit, exactly when engines needed it most. The modification also allowed better accelerator pump tuning because it reduced the need for excessive pump shots that were previously used to compensate for launch starvation. The cost was almost nothing. A longer fuel line, a few minutes of mechanical work. Yet the performance gain was equivalent to major engine development investment. The psychological impact was even bigger. Big-budget teams suddenly realized that small-scale engineering insight could defeat expensive hardware. The story of the reversed fuel bowl became a symbol of racing innovation. The idea that understanding physics and geometry could sometimes outperform raw displacement. Today, modern fuel injection systems have largely eliminated carburetor fuel starvation problems, but the philosophy remains. Engineers now optimize electronic fuel mapping, injection timing, and pump pressure control to achieve similar results. The spirit of the Michigan mechanics' discovery still lives in modern motorsport engineering. That Ford Fairlane that started the story is still racing in nostalgia events. And somewhere in a workshop wall hangs a reversed fuel bowl. A silent reminder that sometimes the greatest performance breakthroughs come from seeing a problem differently. Because in racing, the war is not always won by bigger engines. Sometimes it is won by smarter physics. If you enjoyed this story or want to see more legendary engineering secrets from motorsport history, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Thanks.